Hi, today in this video demo, I would like to discuss some of the challenges trying when looking at recipes and how a new recipe tool in Triangle Farm resolves some of those challenges. So what are the challenges? It basically involves two things. One is how recipes are documented, and the second is when viewing recipe configurations through Delta V Explorer. First part, documentations. A lot of these documentation, recipe documentation is we would print out a recipe and its values. Those recipe values could be in the hundreds, if not thousands. And the problem there is when given to process engineer, unless they're very familiar with the recipe because of historical means, they would often face challenges trying to get a grasp of what those values should be and how they are being used in the process of that recipe. The other thing with documentation is the way a lot of these recipes are documented. They are basically documented from bottom up. That means you have a phase, you show the recipes. The phase will be used in an operation, and you'll be told what which one of those recipes are propagated up, and it goes up to procedure and procedure. But the problem is when you're looking at recipes at the top, there's no easy way, nor was it documented top down. So if you have a recipe with a bunch of values, you don't know how those value works its way down to which procedure, operations, and which phase. And within the phase, where is that recipe value being used in the SFCs? So that's one of, I think, a consistent problem everywhere with how Delta V's are recipes are being dealt. The other one is basically looking at configuration. It's the same problem because you can look at phases, operations, and procedure. You know how everything are being propagated up. So if you have a recipe running at the unit level, unit procedure level, you don't really know have a good understanding how it works its way down. You can probably do it, but it's tedious. The one way of kind of get around it is you load your recipe in the batch operator interface, then you can really see those values where and how they're being propagated down. So you could go down, drill down to a face and click on that face and you can see the values. So we have a tool here, a recipe tool that will resolve how I think recipe should be documented and how you can use it to see how values are propagated down. And even one step further is to see where that recipe value is being used by the phase and in which location. Similar to, let's see, in the batch operator phase, but a little more deeper by going further by opening out a phase and see where it is in the phase that references that recipe parameter. So over here is a download. It is loaded. The tool is loaded with FHX configurations. And we'll give you an example. Let's start for sake of we could definitely go to procedure level, but it gets longer. Just for a quick, easy demonstration, let's look at this one recipe that is actually can be launched and used in a process environment, in the manufacturing environment. So what's going to happen now is that the tool basically organizes all the necessary information into this Delta V viewer, and it's fairly large, but it'll take about maybe up to 2 minutes or so and before you see it. So it's done. This is the recipe and how it looks like. At the very top level, you've got the recipe here, and you got the recipe unit parameters, and these are the values, right? So you can sort it I think you can sort it. No, it's already sorted. So as you can see, it's quite a lot. So you can see that. And at the top, it tries to organize it from top down, right? And it'll show you what's beneath it and so forth. And at the very top here, you can select the formulas, and once selected, you update uh, the recipe values based on the formula that you choose. So as you can see, often you will give this to a process engineer and ask them whether these values are right or to update it if they see necessary. And often it's very, very time consuming if they don't know the process where and how these values should be changed. So now what I can do with this tool is with these formulas, let's pick something surfy CD. Let's say feed this guy, maybe this guy. So let's say if I double click on it, what the tool will do is it analyzes it and you'll highlight where this value is propagated downward. So this same value is being used by flush 01 and flush 02, and at the top you'll keep track of it. So it'll show you this is them used by these two steps. So I can select, let's say select flush 1, double clicking it, it will then show me flush 1. I could say locate it, and that's the value. And I could say, okay, in this unit that's a unit procedure. In this operation, where is this parameter being used? It's being used by this step. Then I can double click here, so I can basically follow that parameter all the way down to the phase level, right? Locate, there it is, 300, and you update the value based on what is defined at the top level. So up to this point, you probably can get the same functionality as loading the recipe through BOI and navigate it down, and you see it. The good thing about this is it will show you how they are being propagated down. But the additional thing you'll do is you can open up the phase, right? You can open up the phase logic. It will show you all the parameters and its associated values that's being passed down based on that path. So from here, you can say, okay, where is this recipe phase phase parameter being referenced? You select next, and it takes you there. It says in step 420, action 90, right? That's where it's at. So it can show you there. So from the recipe value, you can actually trace it down to the specific location in your phase and how and where it's being used. And these values will later can be tied into the flow path tool, where you can actually auto generate path, well, in a somewhat manual way, and generate your flow path by following the different steps through this phase based on these values here. So that is something right now, there is nothing out there that allows you to do that, which this tool allow you to do. On top of that, so you can go to the top, you can select each one of these steps based on the original value. You can see how these values here are being passed down. And if you want to, you can double click on it, drill down. Similar like the batch operator interface, you can see at the top level of this operation what the default value, not the default, but the configured recipe values are, and then drill all the way down. Now, This address basically how you can view recipe in a meaningful way and how it basically from top down way, which is not really easy to do right now, but these tools allow you to do it. The second part of this is how do you document it in a way that's comprehensive, that exposes the values all the way down. And that is done by selecting on this button here. By clicking on it, what it does, it will automatically generate the output for this recipe. And when it's done, I will show, it takes a while, it's about 700 lines long, and I'll show you how outputting the recipe value in this way, and when you give to anyone, every single value is then opened up. And the problem with the top level that is currently being done, there's some value that's hidden at the low level. It's not known. And there have been projects where because a process engineer didn't know there are low level values that are set, it, it sometimes missed. So we'll wait till it's done, and I'll pause it right now and come back when it's done. Okay, now we're done. That took around 15 minutes. We'll click OK. And this is the output. Before I continue, I'll give credit where credit is due. The layout of this, the layout of this is basically replicated from Emerson. Emerson has a tool that generates similar output, but I done it in a way that I know how. Basically, what you have here, this format will show everything you need to know about that recipe, where all the values are defined and where they're set. So for this will be hidden because we're looking at unit procedure. A unit procedure recipe will have operation steps, so I can hide this. Here's a procedural parameter. It's not procedure, so we hide this. So how do you read this? Basically, if you are looking at here, right, and if we look at init 02, that's this one, this step. Within this step, as you can see here, init 02, there's an init phase. Within this init phase, there's a recipe. And by looking at this, you know the recipe, this recipe parameter is deferred up to this, and up to the unit procedure has this. And then what this column would tell you where the final value is located. In this case, the final value is 5, which is a unit procedure level. And over here are additional information at the phase level, the high-low limits of the parameter, and if there's any units. So scanning through this, you know, for example, when you run this wait phase, wait step, the values here are defined at the operation level. This is defined at unit level, and this is the values they are set. And at this step here, you can see all these values are being set at the phase step in this operation. So by looking through this, and if you're able to review this, it exposes all the values and where those values are being set. And of course, you can do things if you need it. You can filter it by looking at different parts of this recipe. But unlike what's done previously, where only some of the information are being displayed, this is not the case in this format. And you can scan down, as you can see, it's quite extensive. But together with this value and probably with this diagram, you can tell how the entire process and what the values are being set to. And with the addition of doing the search within the phase, together is very useful for troubleshooting purposes and locating things in a quick and efficient manner rather than going through different documents at various places and trying to get a grasp of how everything kind of are being put together. I hope this demonstration helps. Thank you. Bye.